So we're going to go over some BM chapters and the outline of BM. So first is after GS passes away. So after GS passes away, we have Shukanand where BM talks about the importance of behaving as the Atma to Shukanand and enlightens him about all of the different spiritual concepts that are needed to become Akshar Roop. Then Girdhar is in search for a Satpurush, is in search for a Satpurush. So he does penance in front of Hari Krishna Maharaj Murti. Then realizes that BM is the manifest form of the Satpurusha, manifest form of God's realized Son. Then Kothari Bechar Bhagat comes to into the company of BM and stitches a waistcoat for him. Also says that he's able to stitch a waistcoat for his soul as well. Radha Bhagat forms a splinter group outside, but his misunderstandings are corrected when BM then acknowledges that hey, GS is not supreme, GS is only Akshar Brahm. Povitranand Swami also gets insulted, which is very very apropos because he also was a part of GS getting insulted, but he got insulted for maintaining the Narayan mantra, and then BM then consoles him by reciting this Pashuramut on the importance of not having ego. Then orders Vignandas to learn Sanskrit, talks about the analogy of a trained horse. And initially, he is hesitant to do so, but because of the persistence, he is able to do it. And Chakubai, he sees that his back is against BM. He sees that his back is against BM, and so he calls him to the front. And then just by doing that, gesture, is able to convey the importance of BM. Yagnapur just a couple of incidents. First, his initial contact with him when he sees that he's able to talk, speak, stitch, at once, and then he's able to reveal the thoughts of Yagnapurush Das. Then he says that, do you know that like the true concept? He's like, yeah, SM is supreme. Then he says that no, GS is also supreme. And then he learns that from Vignanda's teaching when he is sitting or under the cot while he hears the discourses. He stops the chaos in Narya by saying that I will not eat until you start paying the appropriate amount to Lord God. And then says to Gokul Barud that is God not in her heart? Is God not in her heart? Rav Sahib, couple incidents with him. First one is he reveals the thoughts of Rav Sahib to have the Santos dye their dhotis. And then he also has the Muslim chief officer, and he sees that BM is the Marfat himself. Then he talks about all of these different discourses, detachment, supremacy of Maharaj, and plus GS's Akshar, all of these different discourses on detachment, on behaving as the Atma, on letting go of all of these different worldly desires. The opposition grows when everyone is starting to offer exclusive devotion to BM. So people start to realize that he is being treated like God. And as a result of this, other alms, other services are being stopped to other santos, right? And now we have this entire outline. Where we have this excommunication process where the Satus are excommunicated from Bharata. Then they meet with BM and Moa, right? Then we have this entire period of intense association. Then they depart to Gujarat. Then they come back to Katpur. So they are in Vartal, right? They are excommunicated from Vartal. Then they find a way to get back to Moa to have the association. There's an intense period of association there. Then they depart to Gujarat, come back to Katpur instead of Moa, because a few devotees try to stop the meeting. Then they have this again a revival of this intimate connection and association there. Then Divine Bliss and Moa says that these others will be taken back only if they agree to wear white. Only if they agree to wear white. And so even in there, they still have this intense period of association with BM. They still have this intense association with BM. And then finally, when BM is prevented to meet the sadhus in Bhadro, right? This is the police chief analogy where they prevent BM from actually meeting them. Then he goes into the deep meditation mode, deep meditation contemplation mode, where he talks about all of the different things. This is an absurdity. Why is this happening? This is like a thief punishing a police officer, and then they are finally brought into satsang. Then finally he sends the sadhus back to Varta, and tells them to not fully wear saffron or not fully wear white. Well, we have Surya Bharanti who comes in. He says, you need to stop doing all these vulgar desires and vulgar things that you are doing, and you need to adopt the path of righteousness." Bhargavi Baba comes in and then asks Yagna Das to ask this very simple question that he is unable to answer. Samadhi and Kandish, his glory spreads in Kandish, Sakaram Patil is able to falls into Samadhi. Nimdi Vai goes upon seeing on BM the ghosts leave her body, and then she is able to spread the glory of BM in her respective village. Dharmatenda, she sees BM in the supermarket and starts falling down to him. This is Moa. There's a grand feast, grand celebration, fulfilling devotee wishes. We have Rangacharya, who is a very elder senior sant, and he comes to him and he sees that BM is the manifest Satguru. Difficulties for darshan when people are trying to come and do darshan to him. BM appears out of nowhere, suggesting his glory in really attempting to appease his devotees. BM praises and influence. We have Mana Bhagat, we have Narayan Bhai Dwarkan, we have it is Maharaj's wish. It is Maharaj's wish that things go well over here. It is Narayan Bhai Dwarka whose search for a true pilgrimage place is actually erased just by having the darshan of BM. Manabhaka then praises the countless virtues of BM. Then we have the entire section of Divan of Mansida where Yagnapurusha Das actually conveys the importance of BM to the Divan of Mansida. And he is very eager to have his darshan. He is very eager to have his darshan. And then so he initially invites BM, but Acharya Maharaj says, okay, we will try to invite BM. But BM says, no, I will not go because of the heat and because of the perhaps enduring opposition that might go on. And so he goes after 10 days, and then when he is at the kingdom, when he's at the palace, talks about how the difference between Brahman and Jeev, the difference between Brahman and Parabrahm, why Maharaj is even without any flaws, even while he has a human form, he talks about dharma, he talks about devotion, how to create devotion, how to remain in a lotus posture, how to have firm discipline. We talk about Fiji was a technical student. He got into contact with Ganpantarapai with these other devotees, and then finally he leaves and meets BM. Discourse in Nadiad as well, similar topic where he talks about all of these different behaving as Atma, letting go of worldly attachments and things like that. And Shobha, he says that he had a dream when he was little at three dues, and then BM finally emphasizes what those three dues actually were. There was a devotion campaign in Chansada. He arrived in Varta finally, and there were discourses where he actually finally gives the niyams. Then Krishna's, we have the entire section of Krishna Sarvdas. Swami, who was around 99, 92, very learned, very learned Shastri, even defeated Vedanta Acharya. And then he finally sees that that through Yagna Prasad that BM is the true manifest. So Sadguru Jivram, who is a revenue officer, he says that why do devotees have to suffer? Why do people criticize Bhagaji? Even though they realize he is such a great Purushi, even though despite realizing their greatness, he says that these great devotees, they have to suffer, and that it is because of God's wish. It is because they want him to be on the path of righteousness. Rav Sahib then questions to Vignan Das through BM that are you not why have you allowed Vignan Das to go through all of these difficulties? And when he asks him, he says that no, I do not feel any suffering. Right? I think it is as God's wish. I am destined. I am fortunate to do this. This spread. Satsang then Palabai and Hatibai, who are devotees of Lord Krishna, they come to BM and they ask him to what are the secrets of liberation, and then he guides them that he will also come there along with Lord Krishna on their deathbed. Purushottam, the carpenter, he says as he is doing his duty, he has missed the discourses, but then BM finally gives him advice and courage. Jetabai Peach, Ganpatarami and Jai Krishna, then all three of them finally go to meet BM, and even though there's an intense storm along the way, when they pray to BM, they finally reach successfully. We have Hima Bhai, who threatens violence, but then Chaturvi automatically says, no, you cannot do this against this great person. And then the entire section on discourses we have talk about behaving as the Atma, talk about letting go of worldly attachments, talk about importance of Satguru. Really, that's the crux of it, and then he gives all of the different analogies. But overall, like this is the main timeline. If you know this, Shukanan Girdhar Bhai Gothari Bechawar Lada Bhagat Pavitrananda Vignanas Sanskrit Shakuba Yagna Prasad Stop Case and Nadiad Nadiad Gokubar Rav Sai of Discourses Opposition Surya Bharanti Murgi Baba Kandesh Dharma Tanay Das Moa Fulfill Devotees BM Praises Virtues Divan Vansajay by Peach Discourses Nadiad Ranchur Bhai Devotion Campaign in Johnson arrived at Vartad Amdal Discourses gives Niyam Krishna Swarup Das Jivram Ram Sahib Rab Sahib questions Vignan Das, Palabai Hatibai, Purushottam Carpenter, Jehabai Pij, Ganpat Rao, Jai Krishna, Himabai, Chaturbai discourses. And I think we'll stop there. I guess we'll go over a few more. We'll go over a few more. So we'll go over V2. So K10, checking the pulse, checking austerities. We want to perform austerities to please God. Renunciating things that I do not wish to desire any of these pleasures of the Pontifications found in the Brahma Vaikunth. I do not want to do all of those. I want to understand God as the all-doer. That is the ultimate cause of liberation. Ultimate cause of liberation. Maharaj says that one who has true zeal will never fail, will never be discouraged, even when he has thousands of obstacles. Maharaj has true zeal for renunciation. There's different types of zeals. K11, affection for beloved God would never disobey the commands or the wishes of that beloved God. There is an example of the gopis who had affection for Krishna Bhagavan, but they knew that his wish was for them to not to meet him. So even though they were only 3 bells away, they knew that if they were to meet him, they would be disobeying his commands. So the affection for that Bhagavan had for them would diminish. And so if one treats the worldly Panchvishes not related to God as insignificant and then only attaches to God via the Panchvishes, then wherever that devotee goes by God's command, God's form also goes with him. K12 God and body, right? The Jiva has 3 bodies, Jiva has 3 bodies. The Jiva is firmly attached to the God and body. And in the same way that a tamarind seed, the skin of that tamarind seed is firmly attached to the seed, and it can only be burnt by roasting it over a fire. In the same way, then the God and body can be roasted, can be peeled off the jeev, right? If one does these 4 things: attain company of Sant, realize form of God through words of Sant, meditate on the form of God, and imbibe the words of God into his heart. And only when one contemplates on something within the Antakaran is it consolidated. Small streamlet of water. So the jeev thinks that these indriyas and antakaran have become attached to the jeev, but they have not. They have not. They have also attached themselves externally to the panchvishes, but this is actually not true. The vishes are distinct from the antakaran, but they appear that they are the same. They appear that they have become one with the antakaran. And so that is why the desire to indulge in the vishes happens externally through the indriyas, through the panchvishes, right? So having control over the indriyas does not allow the panchvishes to pervade the antakaran, right? If we know a well can only be cleaned when small streamlets of water that flow into the well are clogged from entrance with cloth rag. So by keeping control over the external indriyas, external vishes cannot enter the antakaran. A poor man deficiency vairagya is a poor man may think that I want to do this, but how can he do it? In the same way, a person who has very little vairagya, even though he has great shraddha, he is going to be very difficult for him to eradicate his swabhav. So how can we get over this? If a person lacks vairagya, he should intensely serve a great son and obediently persevere in observance of God's injunctions. Many people think that they only deal with dharma, artha, and kam, and when they only think that they deal with dharma, artha, and kam, they only enjoy the fruits of those in the Devlok, Brahmlok, and Mrityolok, and their karmas become sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. And only when they perform karmas only to please God, that their karmas actually become a form of bhakti, and they actually aid in liberation. Art of ruling, Maharaj says that the jeev feels that lust, anger, and other vishas have become attached to the jeev, but this is not true. One should make an effort and have the jeev actually take control over the indriyas and the antakaran. Same way a kingdom possesses authority over all of the members of the kingdom, all of his family members. Same way that jeev should possess authority over the indriyas and antakaran. If he does not, then those indriyas and antakaran, whenever the jeev wants them to do something, they will not obey. The same way the members of the kingdom will not obey if the king has little or no intelligence. And so that is why one should also learn the art of ruling. What is the art of ruling? Well, realize glory of God, conquer mind by meditating in God's form, conquer ears, and do not listen to worldly talks. Divine light, Maharaj sees that he remains naturally in a state where a king and beggar is the same. Ruling through realms, begging with a broken bowl are the same. Sitting with honor on an elephant and walking on foot are the same. Someone honoring him with sandalwood flowers or throwing dirt is the same. Praising or insulting is the same. Gold, silver, diamonds, refuse are the same. Looked upon, all devotees are the same. And it is only when he forcefully engages his vrittis on something do they actually stay there. Because he remains naturally in a state where even if he wants to engross his mind in the most charming sounds, touch, smells, taste, or sights, he is not able to do so because he has intense vairagya in his antakara. He's not burdened by it, and he's also not burdened by his swadharma. He's also not burdened by the fact that he is Brahm. Right? And why is that? Because his vrittis are constantly remain inverted towards Hridayakasha. In that Hridayakasha, he sees an extremely luminous form of light, divine light, and in that divine light, he sees the form of God, who is not the does not have 1,000 arms. He has 2 arms, 2 legs, and he appears very captivating, almost like a young teenager. And whoever realizes the form will not harbor any desires for the Bvsv. And that is the key deliberation to understand this form. Even if you cannot do this, understand that Maharaj sees that form which is in the Akshara life. Even if you do this, then you will be able to maintain affection for that God. So that's half of the V's. Next we'll go over a few of the SVs, just a high level overview of the SVs again. So Darshan and Peace, all about what are the characteristics of looking at someone who instills peace within. Human traits to sadhu. Best thing is association of the sadhu. Worst thing is attributing human traits to that sadhu. And why do we do this? Through prejudice. One cannot understand the views of GS or the views of senior sadhus. Modern the past was pleased by many of these different things, but in the present, pleased by understanding that God's form is without faults, God's sadhu's form is without faults, and one should follow commands of Maharaj and keep the company of a good sadhu. GS Govardhan Swami says that the only way the casual body can actually be destroyed is through spiritual discourses, faith in God, and then knowledge of God and the sadhu's greatness. Avoiding worldly pleasures. The Jeev thinks that gives the analogy of a Brahmana and a water marriage, or a Jeev and a deer, or a child who builds playthings. Things that pleasure lies in all of these different women wealth, but it does not. It does not. It does not. And only one who seats in the chariot of the sun does not see marriages, right? Likewise, one who has knowledge does not see any attachment to the worldly objects. Satsang only develops when there are advantages or circumstances. What are those? Badrikashram, Shveti, holy places, constant company of great sadhus, Kalpa Brahma to engage. And only one has accepted a guru, though, does the virtues of the guru are instilled in the disciple. And once for Patasata Maharaj, that you appear to be human when we look at your feet, but when we look at your body, you appear human. But when we look at your 16 auspicious marks, you appear actually divine. And then Maharaj says that Vairag Brahma prayed so much for 50 years, 4.5 hours, and only then have I been able to have I had the grace to bless the earth with my presence. Men and women sit separately because Maharaj has disliked mixed assemblies. Only because Maharaj has said so. And then he also says where the mind of a man dwells upon and a mind of a woman dwells upon. Red hot iron pan represents the Jeev that is heated with sense pleasures. And only when the Jeev is in satsang for 10 to 15 days, do those talks begin to settle, and then the Jeev is able to cool. Jeev only hesitates in understanding Maharaj's portion that just like the horse of Gujarat is very hesitant even at a small obstacle, but like the horse of Gujarat, Jeev should be like the horse of Alaya Khatar, not the horse of Gujarat. And one example is that of Samad Patang, who killed the son of Motera in the presence of 500 armed soldiers, and then he returned without hesitation or fear, showing true fearlessness and courage. Maharaj kept the sadhu Gurunathan Swami on earth, even though his horoscope only said 58 years, but because he wants to give love to the devotees of Sorat, because he wants to give bliss to the devotees of Sorat, that he kept GS on this earth. Maharaj says that other avatars that only liberated souls, but they did not destroy the casual body. And we see this from Radhikaji, Sridhama, JVJ, Sanak sages. Best duty is to always talk about God, and that is what GS has always done. Unrighteousness only enters when there is a mental discord. So a king asked for a quiver of arrows, and the strongest man could not break the quiver, but the weakest man was able to break a single arrow. So if you remain united like the quiver of arrows, no enemy will be able to defeat you. Jiva is like the thorn bush, right? Thorn bush has been scraped by the sand in the same way Jiva has been scraped by material pleasures. And only when, even if it is watered by 100,000-kilometer ocean, does it not turn the bushes green? And even if you are immersed in satsa, it does not blossom. You need the satpurush. You cannot be happy until it forsakes these attachments. One should associate with the Satpurush through mind, deed, and words. Through the mind, do not lose faith. Through the words, praise the virtues. And through the deeds, do the actions according to the commands of the Satpurush. Once spiritual wisdom increases, the greater glory of God one seems to know. And he also understands his own glory more. So a shepherd found a diamond, tied it around a goat's neck. And then he sold it for 1,000, then for 10,000, then for 100,000, kept on going around. And finally, final owner went to the trader, and the trader says, bring 100 laborers and take all the money you came from sunset and sunrise. And so he knew the true worth of that diamond. And so that is the analogy. That is the analogy. That is the analogy. Is that as one knowledge of God's glory increases, in the same way the trader knew the knowledge of the diamond, right? As it got passed along, the knowledge of the diamond increased, right? The person who had the diamond, his knowledge of the diamond increased, and his glory, understanding of the glory of the diamond increased. One understanding of his own glory also increases. So his own importance also increases, and his understanding of his own importance also increases because he knows he has this diamond. And then except for the Murti of Maharaj and Akradam, everything from here to Prakriti Purusha appears like waste. Food is like feces, drink is like urine, right? Without the Murti of Maharaj. And then everything else is pretty standard. We have association, we have incomparable glory of a satsang that even the child of a satsang possesses 10 to a million times more greater divinity. And Maharaj says in G2 67 that I myself cannot understand the limits of my own greatness. How will other people be able to understand it? Okay, so we'll stop there.